welcome back to another episode of If You Build It with my man Nett. What is good, my boys?
Good. How y'all doing today?
Coolin', man. Coolin'. Tell us about your business, man.
Like I said, I'm Nett, also known as Papa Bear Kush, the owner, creator, and operator of Bearables. You know, we're a brand that makes artisan treats, desserts, and just things that are just delectable that'll put you in a good mood. Something that we've been doing for about a year now. I've had this operating. It's a nice just backstory and tell of how it got into that. It started off just in college, actually.
What year was this?
This was back in 2012. You know, it was interesting. I got an assignment and I was told can't write about anything in terms of marijuana, cannabis, or anything of that nature. Unless it's something that the teacher has never heard before.
Okay.
So with that, I decided, I'm gonna write a paper about cannabis in America and how at one point it was one of the largest cash crops in America.
Do you remember what year that was?
With the paper, that was 2012, but then with the date of the largest cash crops, this is back in George Washington time period. Early America, where again, that was one of the biggest crops grown along with tobacco and before the lumber industry really took over.
Before the war on drugs.
Basically.
Yeah.
Basically.
So hemp was legally sold in the U.S.
Beyond being legally sold, it was used by just about every industry within the U.S. From the Constitution is on hemp. Clothes were on hemp. Rations were made out of hemp. Paper, textiles, they even had hempcrete. You had houses and buildings built out of hemp. It's just everywhere.
So the crop was strong.
Absolutely, but you know, it didn't go bad too fast, so it would last too long, and that's not good for profits all the time, in my opinion. So,
did it come down to empowering a certain community? Was that a problem?
I mean,
when it came to the cash crop of hemp?
Well, it actually came down to breaking down different communities. One of the propaganda just movements that they had with cannabis is even how it got the name marijuana. So there's a plant from Mexico, marijuana.
Yeah.
Looks very similar to weed, smells very similar to weed, but it is not weed.
Yeah.
It is not cannabis. It is not any of the sort. It doesn't fall into any of those lanes. But since it's something that was recognizable to tie to a different group of a particular group of people, you know, those ethnic people of color that were coming from the South, coming from Mexico, coming from outside the country.
Yeah.
That was an easy thing to attach to them and label them as evil, bad. You know, if you smoke this, you're going to turn into a crazy individual and just go mad.
Yeah.
Once that propaganda I guess switched and people started to realize that it's not all as bad as you say. I say bringing it back to the modern times, that's where you start to see all the rules and regulations changing. That now you have things like the I71 Compliance with what was that, 2014?
Yeah, 2014.
Yeah, 2014. That's where I71 Compliance was passed in DC, and now basically cannabis is decriminalized. Not quite legal fully just yet, but it does give you the opportunity to use it for different ailments and to use it to recreationally to an extent. It's just not as enforced or oppressed in this area. So
what's the difference between being decriminalized and being legal?
For legality, you'll think of places like California, where you can go, you could buy it from any store. You don't need a special license, ID card. As long as you're of age, over the age of 21, you can go into a place, buy your cannabis, marijuana, weed, whatever you want to call it, and you can smoke it in the privacy pretty much anywhere you can smoke cigarettes, essentially. Decriminalized says that as long as it falls within the rules of the compliance, so as long as you're on your private property, as long as you're not in the street, you're not driving, you're not causing a disturbance to the public, you can go ahead and smoke your cannabis and nobody will have a problem with it. But then it's still illegal to distribute or to say that, hey, I sell I'm a pusher or I'm a dealer. That's illegal here. It's still a criminal act. You still can see some hefty repercussions to doing that. So I wouldn't advise, don't be a weed salesman in the District of Columbia, because that's still illegal.
Okay, so what about these stores that are legally selling weed? Well, not weed, let's say hemp or marijuana.
See, well, there's a difference there. So once you start talking about hemp, you're starting to speak about different cannabinoids.
What's a cannabinoid?
Cannabinoid are different chemicals that make up weed. So some of the cannabinoids are things that give you that feeling and give you that high. Some of which are more so just for flavor profiles. Some of which have some medical benefits that have been studied and researched by universities like UCLA, Harvard, many different just schools around the world. Actually have looked into that research around that health and medical benefits, and all of this is coming from the different cannabinoids that are within the plant. Think of it in a layman's term, the chemical makeup of weed.
Okay. Have when it comes to these universities, were they doing research on the benefits of weed before it became legal?
Research.
Or it was becoming legalized?
Well, official research, that's actually been one of the biggest problems in the industry since, again, the war on drugs, where basically there wasn't any research. Like, one of the biggest propagandas for the making weed illegal, there was a scientist who basically would pump gas masks, will put gas masks on different animals like monkeys and things, pump weed into their system, and then when the monkeys died, they would blame it on cannabis.
Yeah. So they created a narrative.
Basically.
Yeah.
This will kill you. It killed the monkeys. But people didn't realize, well, if you don't have oxygen, you don't have air, you're going to die. So if you have a gas mask pumping something other than air, that's breathable, you're probably not going to make that one. It's just okay.
So what you're saying is, when it comes to the criminalization of weed, there was a narrative that was wrote, and to this day it's stuck.
Well, that's to this day. Today, that's where we're starting to see those changes. You're starting to see universities now put more money and intellect into really understanding what is going on with this product. What is this actually doing? Even so much so, research has led to the schedule changing of what cannabis is. So I think it was a Schedule 1, and now that's changed. That
when you say scheduling, what does this mean? What does that refer to?
All drugs or things that are considered drugs, illegal activity. You know, think about heroin, methamphetamines, oxycodone, all the bad things. They have what are called schedules, or basically rankings on how bad are they. A Schedule 1 drug is something that is considered the worst of the worst. You shouldn't take this. It is harmful to not only you, but your community and anything and anybody that's around you. Weed was on that. Cannabis was on that. Hemp was on that. Same product that was utilized for many different reasons is now considered a Schedule 1 drug. That's terrible. But with research, they saw that it was beneficial to allow different patients with different ailments, from high levels of anxiety, eating disorders, to even different mental disorders, that people aren't fully able to utilize different resources like standard treatments, pills, and things of that nature. Well, weed is that alternative. Cannabis is that alternative. And then hemp is a whole nother lane where you can make many different things. Even that, the cannabinoids in that is speaking on the differences between CBD and THC. That's something that makes the big difference on whether it's you're legally able to distribute the product, or is it illegal in areas that is only decriminalized and not recreationally legal.
How many states in the U.S. are currently, is weed currently legal?
don't quote me on this figure exactly.
You can say them. Make it easy for us.
But for what I know, Ohio, California, Denver, Maryland is still trying to get passed. Virginia.
Yeah. Decriminalized Virginia.
Virginia is decriminalized. Yes, decriminalized.
It's not legal. It's decriminalized.
It's definitely decriminalized. Do not play in Virginia.
Also, right?
Maryland is a little bit different. It's decriminalized to an extent. So if you have less than 10 grams, you're good to go. Okay. They'll give you a citation, slap on the wrist.
At most, but no jail.
Have a nice day.
Yeah.
More than 10 grams, and you now have a potential felony on your hands.
Okay.
And not to go too much into it, but I've definitely learned that marijuana and THC are two different things.
All right, tell me more.